What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to episode 102 of the Silver and Gold podcast. I'm Josh,
And I'm Mike.
and today we've got to talk about one of the topics that I regrettably uh, don't want to talk about, but that is going to be Super Bowl 60. It happened. It was a horrible game, horrible outcome. One of the worst Super Bowls that I can remember. I don't think the game was quite as bad as Super Bowl 53 between the Rams and the Patriots, but definitely anytime the Seahawks win, it kills my mood. And it was like I was being forced to watch, like my eyes pried open. Mike, I don't know how you felt about the game, but Will, I see you in the comments. Let us know how you feel about the Super Bowl this year.
What's up, Will? How did I feel about the game?
Yeah.
Um, it was about what I expected. I mean, I was hoping for the Patriots to be a bit more competitive, but I just felt like the Seahawks defense was going to kind of have their way in this game.
Uh huh.
I didn't expect such a bad performance from Drake May. I thought, if anything, he was going to put up relative numbers because the run game would suffer so terribly that it would just be exclusively pass, pass, pass. And, let's face it, the Patriots don't really have the pass catchers to support that. So I just didn't see it for them, you know? Um, so it was about as I expected. There was a period in this game where Jackson Smith and Jigba was getting checked for a concussion, um, and yet the Seahawks were still moving the ball. There was a good bit of punting in this game. I mean, really, it was a defensive showcase. That was that's the optimistic way to look at it, because otherwise it's like, yeah, the Seahawks just beat the brakes off the Patriots, and that was kind of a shitty game,
Yeah.
right? Um, but if you're watching it and going, wow, this the defense, man. Like, even on the Patriots side, Christian Gonzalez had a fucking game. He was an absolute stud in this
Dude,
game.
that one play where he just he jumps up and deflects the ball that was intended for Shaheed. Like it
Hmm.
was a deep ball. Dude, that play was it was fantastic. I
Yeah.
mean, Christian Gonzalez played at a championship level, but the rest of his team quite literally could not have just they looked like minor leaguers against the Seahawks.
Yeah. I think Drake May and Will Campbell are getting kind of the brunt of, you know, essentially the shit talk and the blame for this
Yeah.
game, but I, I don't I don't think you can put all of it on them exclusively. You also, I mean, now it's kind of like, excuse season, I guess, or just the next couple days of, still being fresh for the Patriots. But I know now it sounds like Will Campbell had an MCL and, Drake May had a serious shoulder injury. So it's like, well, I mean, if that's the case, it showed because they looked like they were not healthy players. Um, but you pair that with how great the Seahawks defense is. Um, I mean, Devin Witherspoon on those corner blitzes. Like really, I think as much as people are, uplifting certain players and shitting on certain players for the Patriots, and then uplifting guys like I said, Devin Witherspoon and company. What was it? Is it Julian Love? The other corner, Love. Like, he had a couple
Hmm.
good plays. Or maybe he's a safety. But I think it was the coaching. I really think it came down to the coaching. I also think special teams um, execution from the Seahawks. There were three punts where Dixon put it on the six or better. Like, there's not many Super Bowls where you're coming out of it going, man, those punts in that game, you know?
Yeah.
But yet, like, when I'm watching this, and the Seahawks had a pretty, I don't know, they were up like, what, 12 to nothing? Because it was all field goals at first. I think they were up like 12 to nothing, and it felt like the game was over. And we
Yeah.
were like nearing the end of the second quarter, if not starting the third, and it's like, the Patriots don't have a chance here if they don't score a touchdown. Like, every drive they get the ball, in part because they were getting the ball on the 1 yard line. Like, their punter, like, literally, I was texting the group chat, and I kept joking like, "Wow, Jason Myers for MVP," Super Bowl MVP. and then it was, yeah, it's probably gonna be Kenneth Walker. And then late in the
Rightfully
game,
so. Rightfully so. It was
oh,
Kenneth
Kenneth Walker
Walker.
absolutely deserved it. The offense was not. Darnold didn't have some amazing game.
Mm-mm.
It was really the Seahawks defense and the run game. So really, maybe it should be chalked up to the offensive line, but there were plays where Darnold was getting pressured, and I will say that he was really good at evading pressure in this game, and obviously not turning over the ball. And I think that was a story for him this entire playoffs this season,
Mm.
postseason. But the punting, pinning the Patriots offense, they just it never felt like they had a chance. And Mike McDonald's scheming up blitzes just at the right times, dude. Like third downs, big plays, and then you get that late Devin Witherspoon. It was a strip sack, but it probably got counted as an interception because Nwosu caught it. Um, so I don't know what type of stat Witherspoon got for it, but that was like once that defensive touchdown happened, it was like there's no coming back from that, you
Yeah.
know. And even before that, it felt like the game was clearly over. The offense for the Patriots couldn't move. Um, but yeah,
The
but I guess
the
what I was getting at
moment
was
the moment
it
in the game
almost.
where it was over. No, no,
Uh,
go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
well, just I even joked at the end like you could give the MVP to the punter,
Yeah.
Dixon. Like he was pinning him. Anyways,
The moment in the game when it was over was when the Seahawks finally scored a touchdown. It was it was
yes,
literally
that was checkmate.
that was the nail in the coffin.
Yeah, I've seen as the guy who's going to soon be talking about Kubiak being hired by the Raiders. Um,
Spoiler.
I was seeing yeah, I was seeing a lot of talk about that play in specific and how it was almost like a masterstroke. Like not to like
Nice.
overhype it or something. Well, from an artist.
Yeah.
Uh, um, but I mean, it's something that offensive play callers do a lot. Is setting up play action or yeah, setting up play action through personnel designs on run plays, right?
Hmm.
So let's say you line it up in 12 personnel and you run to the right with Kenneth Walker in the first quarter. You do it again in
Yeah.
the second quarter. Maybe even do it again in the third quarter. And then you do 12 personnel with Kenneth Walker in and you bring the same exact guy in motion in the fourth quarter. Except this time that guy that's coming in motion, he's not going to block, he's going to chip and he's going to run up to the corner of the end zone. You're going to fake a handoff to Kenneth Walker. Now it's play action. We're throwing the ball. That tight end's wide open, touchdown. Like that's how you scheme it up. That's how you do it. And I cannot wait for this guy to be calling plays for the Raiders. But yeah, that was absolutely the checkmate, offensive touchdown that the Seahawks needed to win that game.
I think it's very, I guess it's very funny that one of the head coaches that you wanted was Mike Vrabel, right?
Yeah.
You were definitely interested in him, and he ended up being the Patriots coach. And like, if we look at the grand scheme of Super Bowl 60, it was like a passing of the torch, right? But for the Raiders, like, what better outcome for the Raiders besides winning the Super Bowl than to have one of the teams that the Niners hate the most, win in the 49ers house, but also have the ex head coach of the Raiders get dominated by now the current head coach of the Raiders. You know, they were both play callers in the game, and then I think like in a couple moments here we can probably transition to the Klint Kubiak hiring, but there are a couple things that I did want to talk about like for the Super Bowl. I wanted to get also your thoughts on the halftime show.
Oh yeah, no, I loved it.
Yeah.
Actually, so I could go on a whole tangent here, but
Yeah,
you know,
Kid
my
Rock did fucking
experience,
fantastic, right? No, I'm just
yeah, and whoever the fuck else was doing that shit.
no, nobody watched that.
I keep seeing this like video that's like here's all you need to see from this halftime show, the other one.
Yeah.
I'm not even gonna say the title. Um, and it's just this country artist going, I just want to kiss my fish. Just want to drink my beer. And just want to drive my truck. Like, it's just like stupid, dudes. And
You
how
got
just
it.
like single person strumming guitar, singing. And you got, fucking Bad Bunny with all these, women dancing and people as trees. And he used that, dude, it was so good. Go ahead. What are you
It
saying?
was so good. You got to see the one that I sent, the group chat, the fantasy chat. Not
Mm-hmm.
right now though. After the show for sure. But nah, dude. I honestly I thought it was a really good performance. Like I like Kendrick Lamar's music more than Bad Bunny's music, but the performance itself, I think it was better. It was
It
like
was, so, what were you going to say?
no, like it was like almost night and day. Like this one was so visual and everything, while the other one just kind of felt like, I wasn't too into the whole Samuel L. Jackson like
Right.
America thing. Even though I get that that was part of like the performative nature of it, but like Bad Bunny's was just like there was a lot of visual symbolism, that like went on as he was singing, not in between
Yes.
songs.
I, okay, first off, I realized that today about the Kendrick Lamar aspect. Like,
Yeah,
love Kendrick Lamar. I really did actually like his performance last year,
it was good.
but I
It was
like
good.
I like this performance so much more. And the reason why is because and this is where I was going to kind of go with earlier. I have this experience with movies sometimes where I need more than one viewing to like fully grasp it. Not that
Yeah.
I'm fucking slow or stupid, but like really with like allegorical themes or trying to just intake everything that it's presenting to me. Like sometimes you need that second viewing, right?
Yeah.
For example, Will
100%.
American Psycho. Maybe the first time you don't realize this about this movie or this about this character or something like that. You might miss a small detail, right?
Yeah.
Um, and I only watched this halftime show once so far. I actually do want to watch it again. But
For Jessica
in
Alba.
hindsight, that was so my feed was behind, so I saw like Tyler text like, "Is that Jessica Alba?" And then
No,
sure
it
enough,
was
she
me.
popped up on my screen. Oh, there you go, yeah. And I
Yeah.
was like, "Yes, it is." And then they had
Or
Pedro Pascal in there and Cardi B and somebody else. Um, and isn't I think his name's Ricky Martin.
oh yeah. Yeah.
Dude, he was phenomenal.
Dude, Pia's
Like
mom
very
was
small moment, but
screaming. Pia and her mom
dude,
were both screaming.
he was he was phenomenal.
Yeah.
Um,
He was arguably the best performer. He just didn't have as much time. All
right.
right. Like no disrespect to Lady Gaga, but I feel like she was a little out of place.
It was out of place until I found out what like I just found out today what that was all about. So like there was the Grammys and all that stuff and like they there was moments that were kind of it became popular when Lady Gaga went up to Bad Bunny um
Mhm.
at the Grammys. Everyone's like, "Oh, what'd she say?" And then she shows up at the halftime show. It's like, "Oh shit." So okay, first off, what I realized after watching the halftime show, like in the moment, I'm like, well, like there's a lot going on here. Like obviously at first it's like very Puerto Rican and like it shows a lot of things relative to that, and then you have this wedding going on, and you have like him handing a Grammy to a kid, and like he's buying like a drink from a lady at a business stand, and all these things, right?
Yeah.
And I can't. I'm a Caucasian guy from San Leandro, California. Like I don't know Spanish. I arguably should. Um, so I don't understand the words, but it just hit me like a brick after the fact when I saw a post that apparently that wedding in the halftime show was a real wedding.
Yeah.
Like they really got married, and I felt like I was watching. I was like, "Is that real?" Like that was so specific the way that they did that. And then they cut back to them and they're cutting the cake. I'm like, it almost feels like a real wedding. And like they had all these different people. I was like, they don't seem like extras. Like they seem like they're there for something, you know?
Yeah.
And then I love the message at the end with, the only thing stronger than hate is love, or more powerful than hate is love. And then even had the message on the football that was like, together we are America. Um, point being, it hit me that this halftime show, it could have been Bad Bunny saying, fuck this person, fuck these people because they were talking shit about me for all this time. Fuck that other halftime show or whatever. He could have said anything negative, for lack of a
Yeah.
better term. We'll call it negative. It's really not, but in response, anything like that, right? Some sort of
Yeah.
negativity. But instead, he chose my halftime show is going to be all about love.
Yep.
Like, I don't understand the words, and yet I understand the message. That's why I fucking love it.
Yeah. I think Will articulates it very well. He said, "I agree. I listen to Kendrick more than Bad Bunny, but I think Bad Bunny put in an all-time performance. It was so powerful in speaking for unity in the Americas and making it flow so perfectly."
Yep.
And then another thing that I want to say too is like him handing the Grammy to the kid. I still don't know who the kid is, whether it's the kid that got detained by ICE, Liam, or if it was like another actor's son, or if it was supposed to symbolize a young version of him. Like
That's the way that I took it, because I've seen people saying that it was that kid. Unfortunately, I'm pretty sure it's not him. I'm
yeah,
fairly positive. I saw that he's a child actor.
yeah,
Um, but I think that message was supposed to represent, like, because I think at the very beginning, Bad Bunny was saying in seeing you know seeing the words be what the fuck, what's the word for, like, from English to Spanish or Spanish to English,
translation.
translated,
Yeah,
seeing it
translated.
being translated for me. He was saying, like, don't give up, like, if I can be here at the halftime show, you can fulfill your dreams. Like, that was part of the message too, so I think that's what that was about. And then really quick on the Lady Gaga part, I need to confirm this before, like, I state it as a fact, but if I'm not mistaken, the very moment before Lady Gaga shows up, Bad Bunny apparently says something to the effect of, like, "Is this what you wanted?" And then you get Lady Gaga singing in English, but I, from what I know, and so, like, I'm watching it, I love that song. Um, Die with a Smile, or something,
Yeah,
Die with a Smile, or something like that, right? I love that song so much. So she starts singing, I'm like, fuck yeah, dude. But then I'm watching her and I'm like, okay, one, is she any bit Hispanic? I don't
hmm
think so.
I
And it
don't think
felt
so
out
either.
of place. I don't think so. And it felt out of place. And she's doing, like, these dances as she's singing. Bear in mind that she's an actress, and a good one. I think that was their way of saying, is this what you rather have? Like, just some white lady, you know, pretending to be Latina and, like, doing a Latin dance while she sings in English?
Yeah.
It feels weird. It felt out of place. Like, in the moment, I was like, this doesn't feel right, actually. So
hmm
I think that's what
Also,
that was about.
shout out to Ash. She's one of my coworkers. She's tuning in. She says, "Go Boston Raiders." Mike, I don't know if you know about the Boston Raiders. Do you?
Not not that I, off the top of my head, no.
Oh, well, I figure that's the team that you root for, right? You're a Raider fan through and through. Um,
I
the,
am a
Bos-
Las Vegas Oakland Raider fan.
the Boston Raiders are the heated rivalry hockey team. So, if you know about
Gotcha.
heated rivalries, or is it heated rivalry? No, yeah, heated rivalry.
Yeah, not
Um,
plural. I
yeah,
gotcha. Yeah.
yeah. So
I
Mike,
caught that. Okay.
Mike over here really likes the Boston Raiders more than he likes, the Las Vegas Raiders and actually the Oakland Raiders combined. Yeah.
I mean, they're probably way better than the Las Vegas Raiders.
Yeah. Well, as long as you're willing to admit that. But another thing that I wanted to talk about, like for this halftime show too, was all right. I think the message was very reflective of like, all right, 10 years ago, it was Coldplay that performed in this stadium. Same exact Levi Stadium, right? And the message
Hmm.
was definitely like that love wins. And I
Mhm.
like that there was like kind of like that cross symbolism between both. Um, but one thing that I really do like, I wasn't planning on going down this rabbit hole, but is there something about like outdoor Super Bowl halftime shows that just feel a little bit better than indoor halftime shows?
1000%. Even the Green Day pregame. I
Yeah.
was like, this is
Oh,
awesome.
they killed it.
It on For some reason that one reminds me of the videos that I've seen of the 2002 Raiders Super Bowl that was in San Diego, which is
Hmm.
outdoors. And like back then you'd have artists like Green Day, performing. But it was, bright sunny day in San Diego. Um, you know, yeah, no, the weather was just perfect. Oh my gosh, what is his name? Charlie Puth,
Oh,
the guy
that
that
was one of the best national anthems that I've ever
I,
heard.
I think I think that's up there. It's not quite as high, but it's up there with Whitney Houston. Like it's a step below it. Whitney Houston is, I think that'll forever be the best one ever, but man, that was awesome.
Hmm. Um, and then I don't know. There's something about Bad Bunny's performance. Like there wasn't that cringy moment that I feel like that has been there in the past couple halftime shows. Like,
Yeah.
all right, or like the meme worthy moment. Like I'd say this past year, Kendrick Lamar walking and looking at the camera and going, "Say Drake," right?
Yeah.
Like that just became like an instant like classic moment. But then like, all right, think about like Lady Gaga, when she jumped from the rooftop of her Super Bowl performance, or
Hmm.
Katy Perry and the shark dancer that didn't know what to do, and then she's also riding on like a freaking big, what was it, like a cat or like a lion or something? It was a lion,
I
right?
think it was a lion, yeah.
Yeah. Um,
Yeah.
and then 50 Cent just out of nowhere being upside down, rapping, with his chain dangling in his face. Like,
Yeah.
there wasn't that head scratching moment of like, what are they doing? Like, it felt like a one take. Like, Bad Bunny was just like in the
Yeah.
whole time. And like, there
Yeah.
was like, the out of place moment was Lady Gaga, but even though she felt a little bit out of place, it still felt like it tied in well with the show.
It 100% did, yeah. Also, it was a big, singer cameo, just like Ricky Martin.
Yeah.
There was one thing that really, like all the music was good. Like I was kind of like moving a little bit, like listening and stuff. Um, the part, like I know it was kind of a meme. Actually, this is probably the most memeable moment of the whole performance was the exploding telephone poles, which
Hmm.
I think is supposed to represent something in Puerto Rico, I believe. But
The substation for sure.
forget. Yeah, the
Yeah.
substation by the Niners stadium. It was like, no, he's too close to the Niners.
Yeah.
But that moment, actually, right after those things like exploded, uh, he climbed up that pole and like got on top of that thing with no rope, like no cable on him. I was like, I don't know if I've ever seen a performer do that like willingly like that. Like usually they have to have a cable. There's some sort of safety harness or something. And unless I'm wrong, it looked like he was on that thing with no, safety harness.
Yeah. And then another thing too, when he was standing on the truck and like leaning back, I was like, dude, if I was performing right there, like, all right, that looks like, I mean, he made it look easy, but I'm sure like if you're actually singing in front of like the entire world,
Mm.
or at least in front of all of America who's watching, like, how do you not feel the pressure and just like fall back and fall off that truck? You know?
Right.
Like it's an uneven surface. I don't know. I thought the show was definitely impressive. It wasn't the
Yeah.
best one I've seen, but it was far from the worst.
Yeah. I mean, off the top of my head, I can't think of one that like just blew my socks off to the point of like that's forever the best halftime show that I've ever seen. I can't think of it off the top of my head. Whereas this one was so infamous before it even ever happened because of all the bullshit drama surrounding it. Not surrounding it, not surrounding Bad Bunny, but surrounding the people who just freaked out because, oh, it's not going to be in English, and that's not American in quotations. It's like, give me a break. In fact, I saw a TikTok. This will be my last point here.
Yeah.
You brought up Coldplay.
That was one of the best, if not the best. Definitely the
I I,
one.
bel-
Dr.
I
Dre's was hella good too.
mm, I also remember, at least in my opinion, I think Rihanna's was pretty good.
Oh, she killed it.
Um, yeah. Um, I saw a TikTok that mentioned like the Rolling Stones did a halftime show in like the early 2000s or maybe even 90s, and it's like this guy like saying like, oh yeah, the or it's like this guy asking like, who's doing the halftime show this year, and it's the same guy like answering, oh, Rolling Stones. Oh, sick, cool. Where are they from? Oh, fucking England. Oh, sick. And then it's like, oh, Cold Stone's doing the halftime show this year. Oh, nice. Where are they from? Fucking Finland or where the fuck they're from, but not the United States. At least I think it's Coldplay. Oh, sick. And then it was, I guess Rihanna. She's from, I'd have to search it up. I don't know off the top of my head.
But not from
Where,
the U.S.
yeah, let's see. Where, god damn it, is
While you
Rihanna
look that up,
from?
Will says the telephone poles were to symbolize the outdated grid system in Puerto Rico and how much the USA has neglected them during storms when they actually needed help. They would climb them during the floods. Damn.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, I think the only thing I had saw on that's great info. Thank you, Will. Um,
Shout out to
was
Will.
that yeah was that like they average like north of 72 hours without power every year or something like that, which is crazy, and to average that. Rihanna's from Barbados.
Yes.
And the guy's point is like, we had no problem with any of them doing a halftime show, and it's totally American. But then Bad Bunny, who is from Puerto Rico, um, a U.S. territory, now suddenly it's not. Especially like in these times, it just feels so
Racist.
racist and just not even trying to hide it at this point.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's all ridiculous, and things need to just fucking change.
Yep. Speaking of changing, I think now is a good time to change the topic to the 49ers hiring Raheem Morris. Michael, I'm going to let you give your outside perspective on what you think of the hiring first, and then I'm going to, just kind of jump in when I feel like it's a good time.
Cool. I like the hire for the Niners. I think there was a reason why the Falcons hired him to be their head coach, and I think above all, not really above all, but a big point to be made is the fact that you're getting a high end coach on your staff. Period. Like you're getting a guy who has head coach experience now to be your defensive coordinator. Um, and I'd say most notably was his time with the Rams, where, if I'm not mistaken, he won the Super Bowl as the defense coordinator. Am I wrong?
Yeah, he did.
That should be
He
the
did.
Joe Burrow Bengals Super Bowl.
Yeah. And then people, I mean, I've heard like especially Dante Whitner be very critical of like Raheem Morris about what has he done? Like he inherited this like really good Rams defense with Aaron Donald and um what's his face? Um the corner, Jalen Ramsey.
Mm.
And I mean my all right, yes he did, but right now he's inheriting a 49ers defense with Nick Bosa and Fred Warner and Diamador Lenore. I can't name a single player that was on those on the Rams Super Bowl defense besides Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey. And I feel like we've seen in NFL history talented defenses, go to waste with a coordinator that's just not good. Like we saw that, you know, yes, it was a Super Bowl hangover year, but just a couple years ago, I don't think that. God, what was the guy's name that the Niners had? What was his name, Mike?
Steve Wilkes.
No, after Steve Wilkes.
And you're talking about a defense coordinator? Sorry.
Yes, it was the guy that they hired directly after Steve Wilkes. He's a special teams guy, I think in Jacksonville right now.
Are you talking? Not. No, not Gus
Fuck.
Bradley.
No, not Gus Bradley. What was his name? Um,
Uh, wow.
49ers defense 2024. Nick Sorensen. I don't think Nick Sorensen didn't know what he was doing.
Yeah.
And nobody
Okay.
nobody really respected him. Like they just hired him, like promoted him from within the staff. It was Nick
Yes.
Sorensen and Brandon Staley, like kind of co-running the defense. It was weird. Um,
Yeah.
and I feel like hiring Raheem Morris, you know, I think it's a good hire. Like I think he's a high energy coach. He has the head coaching experience. Um,
I
and
think players like to play for him.
I think so too because like look at the Falcons this year. They were eliminated so early, yet they tied for first in the division. Like if the players really didn't give a fuck about playing for him, they would have had a much higher draft pick. They would have lost so many games because you don't accidentally win in the NFL.
Yeah, and also I think I mean, we had what 10 head coaching vacancies this year, which
Yes.
is a little bit more than usual. Like the average is probably like 6 or 7. Dude, every week I say 6 or 7 at some point, and I don't ever mean to do it. But um, I feel like a lot of these head coaching vacancies were so conditional and situational to like if just one little thing went differently, they wouldn't have got fired. Like I
Hmm.
think if Raheem Morris has a healthy quarterback all season, I mean Penix wasn't getting it done completely, but still like maybe they make the playoffs and he's not getting fired. If um if the Bills don't lose, well, what to the who they lose to the not the Patriots. Was it the
It it
Patriots?
was the Patriots.
Jeez. Yeah, if they don't lose to the Patriots, McDermott's probably still there. Um, if the Ravens just beat the Steelers week 18, John Harbaugh might still be there. I mean, the owner said otherwise, but like, I don't know, man. Like it's so like the margin for error sometimes is so small, and I just think Raheem Morris is a guy that kind of got a bad. I think their GM fucked them hard in
Nice.
in Atlanta. Sorry, like he did such a terrible job. Um,
And
and
now they're
now
gonna
this
lose.
James Pierce,
Yeah.
yeah, dude, that is fucking. That's 2006 Raiders bad or 2008 Raiders, like just Henry Ruggs shit. Like, dude, that's not a plan or not a
It's not a
what do you call it? Not a
viable.
formula. Yeah, it's not a formula for success. Like they're going the wrong way right now.
Yeah.
You have no
They
first round
don't
pick.
they don't have a first round pick, and they played themselves. Well, actually, not they played themselves. They actually played the Rams out of a top draft pick. Now that I think about it, but like every round gets shuffled according to your record, right? So they kind of set themselves back in the draft in the later rounds, not just the first.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, the Falcons are definitely like they're not going to be relevant for a while. But
And I think their
when
quarterback issues were notable. Sorry, just on the
yeah,
Raheem Morris aspect, like, and I think that's also in part the offensive coordinator's fault, and perhaps whoever was the quarterback's coach, right? Like, they didn't do a good job of developing Penix. They didn't seem to set him up well for success, and through that, I feel they didn't set Raheem Morris up for success. Paired with the GM issues, right?
yeah,
There is some blame to be had on Raheem Morris, but when you're looking at the overall aspect of this with the Niners, he's not going to be a head coach now. He's going to be the defensive coordinator. And when he was last a defensive coordinator, he was damn good.
yeah. Um, going back to the whole head coaching vacancies thing, there were a lot of coaches that I think were fired for the same reason this year. Not because their teams didn't perform well, but just kind of that the teams were just stagnant. You know what I mean? Like the Ravens, the Steelers, and the Bills, I feel like all fired their head coaches for the same reason because they were just stuck in the same, with the same outcome every single year. And I just can't wrap my head around the fact that the Patriots were the team that came out of the AFC with no Chiefs, you know? Like, this is the year that we don't get the Chiefs, and the best that we can do is the Patriots. Like, Sean Payton's got to be sick to his stomach right now. I'm telling you, Mike, if the Broncos, if Bo Nix was healthy, I think the Broncos might have won the Super Bowl. I think that defense, all right, say what you want about the Patriots defense, the Broncos defense is much better, and Sam Darnold would have played them out of the Super Bowl against the Broncos defense. I full-heartedly believe that. Cuz I feel like he
I
had some
think
turnover worthy plays even against the Patriots.
he threw, I think, one pass in this game specifically that I was like, oh boy, like that should have been picked. But there was one early on where he threw it in a tight ass window. I was like, what a throw! And again, he had a lot of plays where he was escaping pressure, and maybe the Broncos do a better job of getting home and getting the sack with like Nick Benito and company. And of course, you have an All Pro corner in Pat Surtain Jr. Out there for the Broncos, but I don't know if he would have done that much better
Christian
than
Gonzalez.
Christian did in this game. Uh, but the issue, like you're saying, if Bo Nix is healthy and it's the Broncos in this game instead, um, they certainly would have put up more points. They certainly would have competed much better. There, where I think you might be onto something is the Broncos' offensive line. The Patriots' offensive line was getting gashed. They were getting killed. The Broncos' offensive line would have done better because they had two, I want to say two All Pros on their offensive line, and Garrett Bowles and I believe it's the right guard. I'm forgetting his name. Um, that would have been the reason why they had a fighting chance in this game. But I still think the Seahawks defense was just too good and got hot this season, really all season, but especially at the right time. And I think
Mhm.
the coaching, I think Mike McDonald just schemed up a fucking hell of a game plan in the Super Bowl. And maybe it would have been different against Bo Nix and company, but I'm glad that it was not the Broncos, and I'm sure you are upset that it was not the Broncos.
I'm just upset that it was the Seahawks, okay? The Patriots could have won the Super Bowl and that would have been fine and dandy. All right, sure, they get number 7. We'll catch up to them later. But the Seahawks winning on Levi's just pisses me off. But let me focus, let me get us back on track on our topic of Raheem Morris. So I want to go through a little background of Morris's kind of career in the NFL. So in 2002, he started off with the Buccaneers. He was a defensive quality coach, and then in 2003 became a defensive assistant. From 2004 to 2005, still with the Buccaneers, became an assistant defensive backs coach. So he's already, he's got the background with defensive backs, and then you'll see with he went to Kansas State as the defensive coordinator in 2006, came back to the NFL, back with the Buccaneers, 2007 until, all right, from 2007 to 2008, he was the defensive backs coach until he then took over from 2009 to 2011 as the head coach. So I didn't even realize he was a coach for the Bucks for so long. I had no clue. And the what's funny? He was on the coaching staff that beat the Raiders in the Super Bowl. He was a defensive quality coach under Gruden, right? 2002.
Yeah, it checks out. Yeah.
That was the year, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, all
I
right,
believe so,
he
yeah.
was definitely. I mean, that's one great mind that I can definitely tie him to, and one great team right there. Then he, after he was the head coach in Tampa Bay, he was the Washington Redskins defensive backs coach from 2012 to 2014, more defensive backs, work. I think the 49ers definitely, like, for their defense to really improve, and this is where I thought Steve Wilkes was going to improve it. I think that they need to draft and develop better defensive backs because they always typically have pretty good linebackers, and they just always draft with their first pick defensive linemen, right? I would really like to see the improvement of like actually having lockdown corners. I'm not going to look at the comments yet, but I saw you laughing. Atlanta Falcons from 2015 to 2020. And then he went. It's funny because he'll go from a team, for a very long time, leave the team, and then come back immediately after. So, all right, Falcons 2015, assistant head coach and defensive pass game coordinator. 2016, assistant head coach and wide receiver coach. Jumping from defense to offense, I find that very interesting, And that was when he was with Kyle Shanahan and Dan Quinn, on the Falcons. Atlanta Falcons 2017, assistant head coach, wide receivers coach, and offensive pass game coordinator. So either Raheem Morris, all right, it could be both, but either he is a great football mind, and just like you could stick him anywhere and he just has so much knowledge about the game, or he's really good friends with people in the league and they're willing to give him jobs because, probably a little bit of both. He probably does have good knowledge and he's probably really good friends with, like Shanahan. Because I've heard how great that Shanahan's relationship with Raheem Morris is. Plus, Raheem Morris, we'll talk about in a little bit, was the defensive coordinator in LA, so he has to be tight with McVay. So, definitely is part of that same coaching tree. All right, so assistant head coach, wide receivers coach, offensive pass game coordinator, 2017. 2018, assistant head coach and offensive pass game coordinator. 2019, Atlanta Falcons still. Assistant head coach, defensive backs coach, and wide receivers coach. So he's just all over the place, but kind of in a good way, but just not specializing on defense in particular, which I think it could be a knock, but it could also be good because he understands both sides of the football. Atlanta Falcons 2020, defensive coordinator and interim head coach. Then he goes to the Rams from 2021 to 2023, defensive coordinator, wins a Super Bowl with the Rams. Obviously gets pretty close, two of the other years? Because the Rams have just been very good ever since they got Matthew Stafford. Atlanta Falcons 2024 to 2025 head coach. Didn't really work out. They never got the quarterback. And now he's the defensive coordinator for the 49ers. Mike is probably going to empty his guts. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know what Mike's dealing with in the background, but I will take comments real quick and then just kind of give my reasons why I'm optimistic and reasons why I'm pessimistic. Will says, I agree with Josh on that. The Broncos, on the Broncos take, because you could tell that Sam was getting happy feet very early. Broncos offense is much more stable and consistent than the Patriots, in my opinion. Yeah, I agree. 100%. Like, I feel like they could have done better against the Seahawks defense, and then absolutely their defense is just on another level than the Patriots. I think that it just would have been a better matchup, and Sam Darnold maybe would have turned the ball over. We'll never know. Mr. Hardy 7660 says halftime was trash. I mean, you're entitled to your opinion. I'm not going to tell you that you're wrong, but I absolutely disagree. Welcome to the channel. Lord on Fancy, Luis, says, big fan, man. No, I'm a big fan of you. Subscribe to Lord on Fancy. That's my boy Luis. Shout out to Luis.
Shout out to Luis. Dude, you just had me cracking up. I had to pee so bad, and I knew Kubiak was coming up.
Yeah.
And I still had my earphone in, and all I hear is, well, Mike's going to go unload his guts right now. Like, it's like so nonchalant. And it just kept going, well, I'm going to go to comments. Like,
yeah.
Oh, God, dude.
Nice.
That was
You
funny.
pissed all over the seat while you were
Yeah.
laughing.
Yeah.
But, all right. Reasons why I'm optimistic about Raheem Morris. So he's been around the game of football, like particularly with the NFL since 2002. That's 24 years of experience in the NFL, and he's been around, John Gruden. He's been around Kyle Shanahan. He's been around Sean McVay. Like I and then also another reason to be optimistic too is just kind of his understanding of both sides of the football. Reasons to maybe not be pessimistic, but like just cautiously optimistic is, like I mentioned, the fact that he has, been around the Shanahan coaching tree, between Kyle Shanahan, with the time with the Falcons, and I know that wasn't Kyle's team, but like just being on that staff and then going with McVay, I'm just a little cautious of like, all right, is he just really good friends with people that know a lot about football? But back to the optimism, that Falcons team absolutely could have quit on the season, and they did not. They found their groove. They started playing very well. They started playing well towards the end of the year. And maybe Raheem Morris wasn't the best head coach, but if the players on the 49ers can just buy in, if Nick Bosa can buy in, and Fred Warner can buy in, and it's not going to be another Nick Sorensen situation, which I don't think that it will be, and if it's not like a Steve Wilkes situation where they just don't like his energy, like the Steve Wilkes experience was kind of weird because he always liked coaching from the box, and then he called that zero blitz against Minnesota, which resulted in that long Jordan Addison touchdown, and then they're like, all right, you got to coach from the sideline now. And then also apparently Steve Wilkes didn't want to, he wanted to run his own system, and the 49ers are like, no, we want you running our stuff. So I'm hoping, I'm just hoping the 49ers can give Raheem Morris some, I guess, freedom to run the defense in his vision.
Mm.
But yeah, I'm just hoping for the best, and I think that from what I've seen, his players have loved him, and if they're gonna play hard, I like, you know, I just like the sound of that because I've seen what this team looks like with unmotivated, you know, or I guess unmotivating coaches.
Mm.
Does that make sense? Like D'Amico
Or
Ryans and
coaches that
Robert
just don't know what
Saleh.
they're doing.
D'Amico Ryans and Robert Saleh are both high energy defensive coaches. Like they're not the type to just like stand there and be like emotionless like Bill Belichick, you know? Bill Belichick will just stand, and like have the same reaction all game, same look on his face, whereas like, you know, Saleh and Ryans will just be jumping around. And I've seen Raheem Morris get excited on sidelines during Falcons games when I've seen them play on primetime. Because I don't really get to see the Falcons outside of when they play on primetime. So just hoping for the best. Mike, any
Mm.
last words before we go on to the next topic?
Oh no, I think it's a good hire for you guys. And I think as far as like defensive coordinator candidates that were out there, I feel like you got one of the top, if not the top, available.
Yeah, there was him, there was Jim Schwartz, and
I
I mean
think
Gus
James Schwartz isn't
Bradley.
going to coach this year.
Gus Bradley was in the mix. I'm trying
Yeah,
to
but
think of.
I'd rather have Morris.
Mhm.
I liked Gus Bradley, but I think I feel like Morris can do better with what you guys have.
Mhm. All right, we're moving on. Next topic. Michael, the Raiders have hired their head coach for the. I mean, what is this? What number coach in what span of years is this now?
If I'm not mistaken, this is the sixth head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders, the 25th head coach in franchise history, including Los Angeles and Oakland. But, what they've been in Vegas since 2019 or something?
Hmm.
I mean, that doesn't even sound right. No, it can't be right. Maybe it was
No, 2020.
2018. It sounds even worse. I mean, I guess if you throw in interim coaches, then maybe 6 is right because we're going in 2026. So you'd have Gruden, and then the interim was Bazakia, and then you get Josh McDaniels, then you get Antonio Pierce. I've already named what, like 4 or 5? Probably 4.
Yeah. Um.
Yeah, yeah, that checks out because then you get Pete Carroll, then you get Kubiak. So that's 6 since Vegas.
Hold on. All right. When did the Raiders move to Vegas? Yeah,
By the way,
they.
it was Gruden because Gruden was
It
in
was
Oakland.
2020. 2020 they moved officially.
Yeah, wow. Yeah. So in less than 6 years, they are on their 6th head coach. That doesn't even feel possible.
Yeah.
That doesn't even sound right. How the fuck does that happen? God damn it, dude.
How many coaches
But
are they paying right now? They're still paying
oh,
Gruden.
yeah, I mean, you'd have to ask Mark Davis, dude. It's yeah. But hey, I don't care.
Yeah.
As long as Mark Davis has the funds to keep paying out more coaches, then I guess everything's fine. But if he goes broke, which I mean, it's the Raiders organization, so it's not just Mark Davis. Maybe there are other investors that are and what have you, part owners and shit. Um, but yes, Klint Kubiak was officially hired post Super Bowl to a 5-year deal, according to Adam Schefter. Um, and
Damn.
yeah, I'm ecstatic. I took some notes while watching the press conference. Like I listened to it earlier today when it was live, but I couldn't listen to all of it, and then I watched it before our pod here. Um, so I can just kind of dive into those, and you can just stop me whenever I'm kind of going on, and if you have something, we'll talk about it. Otherwise, I'll just keep going through it.
I have something
Um,
now. I'm gonna throw on a
yeah.
bonus topic just on an idea that I made.
Okay.
Can I just interject before we get
Yeah.
into okay? I don't know why my brain works this way, but the next time Mark Davis is gonna pay upwards of 6 coaches in Las
Mm-hmm.
Vegas, just hire them all at the same time and then partner up with Dana White to fund it and then have them fight for the position like a UFC fight. Who out of all 6 of those coaches do you think is walking out of there? Like I feel
I
like
feel like it's pretty
Antonio
easily
Pierce.
Antonio Pierce. Yeah.
But what if
I
they
mean,
gang up on Antonio Pierce like John
yeah. They have to go for
Gruden?
the strongest first.
Yeah.
That would easily be John Gruden's idea.
Yeah. I
And
tell
then
you
like
what,
Josh
man.
McDaniels would just be like, "Yeah, I guess we should. I mean, fuck, And then fucking Pete Carroll would just be like, "Well, as long as we're competing, we're winning." And then Rich Pizzocchi would be like, "I mean, I'm kind of the best one here, but nobody's gonna admit it."
Antonio Pierce would eat them all alive, even if they all ganged up on him, dude.
Yeah, yeah, dude.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Honestly, maybe they would go for Josh McDaniels first. Maybe they'd be like, "Let's just go for the guy that we all fucking hate first,
Yeah.
then we'll go for Antonio Pierce next."
Yeah.
Um, so
But
yes,
hey,
five
Klint
year deal.
Kubiak.
Klint Kubiak, dude, I'm ecstatic. I had been saying that Klint Kubiak was the guy that the Raiders should hire as their next head coach, dating back to probably October, in the heat of Pete Carroll's first year as the coach. Like, I went from saying, "Well, I'm gonna give him at least a season and a half," to, "Yeah, I want Klint Kubiak the moment this offseason starts." Like get that guy in this fucking building because a year ago it was Ben Johnson. It's these young offensive minds who are proven to be good at scheming an offense in this NFL, in today's NFL. Um, and additionally, work really well with quarterbacks, from what it seems. Um, Obviously, Sam Darnold did really good with the Vikings, but I would say he did just about as good with the Seahawks. I mean, he kind of tailed off towards the second half of the season. He threw a lot of interceptions in the second half, but I mean, he won the fucking Super Bowl. The Seahawks won the Super Bowl. Klint Kubiak in that offense. I mean, again, Jackson Smith and Jigba was hurt in that game at one point. That's the offensive player of the year. And what do? They just beat the dog shit out of the Patriots with the run game with Kenneth Walker. And I retweeted a post. I retweeted a post from Mo Moten, one of my favorite Raider analysts, if you will, out there. And he said, I'm seeing everybody else is seeing Kenneth Walker tonight, play amazingly in the Super Bowl. But if you know, I'm seeing Ashton Gianti. Because their run style, everything, many things about Kenneth Walker is very similar to Ashton Gianti, in my opinion. The elusiveness, the body control, the contact balance, very, very similar. And you see what Kubiak can do with that when he's forced to just have that guy. And I would like Gianti to have a guy that's worthy of running the ball behind him just to keep his legs fresh. But if Kubiak is forced to just feed Gianti, it's going to look like Kenneth Walker a lot of the time. Is he going to always be the best player in the game? Probably not, but you also have Brock Bowers. In theory, they're going to have Fernando Mendoza, which he's going to be a rookie. We'll see.
This is, man, I'm going to jump in now. This is good for Fernando Mendoza. This is good for the trajectory of the Raiders. Because if you would have paired, a brand new rookie quarterback with a defensive coach, I'm sorry, it's very tough. Look at CJ Stroud right now. Like, CJ Stroud right now doesn't have stability at offensive play caller, and he was good his rookie year, and then for whatever reason, wasn't it Klint Kubiak they got rid of?
No, for the Texans?
Yes. Didn't they have Klint Kubiak on the year that Stroud was good?
No, I think that was the bald guy. He's with like the Dolphins or something. I don't know his name.
Hold on. Klint Kubiak career. But I think this is really good for, we all know the Raiders are going to take a quarterback. They need a quarterback, right? Having a young quarterback paired with a young offensive coach, I think it's going to be huge for his development to have the consistency there. Will it work out? We don't know. But I think, if you look at, should the Raiders have been more aggressive on Ben Johnson last year? Maybe Ben Johnson is probably the better offensive coach, but they probably would have been better than they were, under Pete Carroll. Let's just say that the Raiders overperformed, still didn't make the playoffs. They wouldn't be in position for a quarterback. There's only one in this draft, right? Mm-hmm. They would still probably be in purgatory, but maybe have a good head coach. So let's see. Looking at Klint Kubiak. Yeah, no. He was actually, funny enough, the passing game coordinator for the 49ers the year that they went to the Super Bowl.
Something about Kubiak being on a roster, man. They just apparently they go to Super Bowls.
Dude, okay. You know what's another thing that I wanted to talk about too is Kubiak and Shanahan. What are the similarities between them? Obviously scheme, but besides that, Mike, do you want to guess what's in my mind?
Well, honestly, to me, not pound for pound, not identical, but there is something actually to their personalities that is very similar in watching the press conference. Like Shanahan, well, okay, this is probably what it actually is that their fathers not only coached but won a Super Bowl as a head coach
Yes.
before
It's
they were coaches. Yeah.
hmm
Um, and you can feel that with both of them. Like watching this press conference with Kubiak, but also knowing Shanahan for the amount of years that we've known him, um, they're very even tempered guys. Like we've seen Shanahan get mad a little bit, but for the most part, like at press conferences and stuff, it's very monotone and controlled, right? Maybe he gets a little frustrated with one question or another, but for the most part, very monotone, very controlled, great play caller, right? Um, that is very much Klint Kubiak, dude. Like, like before the press conference, they put out some videos of him like touching down in the jet and like showing up at the building and like saying some words to all the people that were in the building, like congratulating him, and he's just like, yeah, yeah, I'm just so excited to be here. And like you can't really like he doesn't actually sound like it, but
hmm
I think I don't think it's like a like he's not being genuine. I think it's honestly just that this isn't his thing, like the press conferences and like all the media. I think his thing is fucking working and like just being a nerd in the fucking film room, you
You
know?
know, you know who I was thinking of on the
Mm.
Texans staff?
Oh, probably Gary Kubiak.
No, it was Bobby Slowick.
Yeah, no, that was the bald guy that I was talking about.
Yeah.
Um, let's see, I think he was bald. Anyways,
But my point still stands about Stroud. Like literally no consistency at play caller, you know,
yeah,
and it just didn't work out. Or, you know, finally, I mean not finally. In Caleb Williams' second year, he gets an offensive minded head coach and like a young offensive mind. And look at him. They
they
they won a playoff game.
they had a shot at making the NFC Championship. They were that close.
Yep.
Yeah, they're gonna be in it for a while now with Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams. Um, and it feels like they're only gonna get better, to be honest with you. Um, but yeah, I mean, moving on to Kubiak, or back to Kubiak. Um, I'll just go through my notes here, and then again, you can just stop me whenever you hear something that's interesting or that you want to make a point off of. Um, so this press conference is starting, and the first thing you see if you're watching it is it's not just two seats, it's not just three seats, it's eight seats. Did you see this at all?
I did not watch a
All right,
single
cool.
second of the press conference. I saw two things. I saw
Mm,
not even a full 24 hours after winning the Super Bowl, he's already in Las Vegas. I thought
yep.
that was a little wild. Um,
Mm.
and hold on.
They must have set the private jet. Maybe Mark Davis or somebody. I don't
You
know.
mean doesn't Mark Davis fly Southwest?
Fucking A. I think he does, but maybe it was Tom Brady's. I have no idea.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe Tom
Honestly,
Brady's the one that's like, Mark, you got to cut that shit out. We need to be a
yeah.
first class organization. You know,
I
speaking
just
of
doubt
Tom
that.
Brady, if we
I
have
just doubt
time, I
that
want to
Clint
talk about him.
Kubiak. Yeah, I'm sure we do. I just doubt that Clint Kubiak has his own private jet. Um, did you want to talk about him now?
Yeah, fuck it. All right, Pia's dad is gonna hate that I'm saying this, but I want to shout out Tom Brady because what I think he's doing for the game of football, you know, after retiring, is actually very positive. I think like you know everything that I see about Brady, like I was just watching the rise of the 49ers and he's like narrating like his perspective of a fan growing up and like, paying homage to, you know, like he said if he had rooted for the Jets growing up, he wouldn't be the same person, right?
Mm.
But it's not just the 49ers thing, dude. It's like he isn't afraid to be critical of what he thinks about the game. Like, oh, offense, offensive players should worry about them, worrying about keeping their own players safe rather than defenses worry about keeping offensive players safe. You know what I mean? And how the game has changed. And then I actually enjoy Brady as an announcer. Like, I like to hear him, speak. I think it's like there's a lot of muddied waters between him being a minority owner of the Raiders and him like also being in production meetings and stuff. Like, there's that. But
Mm.
like just the way that he always is promoting the game and like
Yeah.
I think it's very positive and it reminds me of like John Madden level of like giving back to the game after you're done.
Yeah. I also think that he has started an interesting trend, especially this offseason, I've noticed, where now you're seeing more franchises, and maybe honestly, you could chop this up to also Mark Davis, um, but you're seeing more franchises bring in these ex quarterbacks to be like special advisors.
Matt Ryan,
So, yeah, you had Matt Ryan with the Falcons. Super weird one. They had the Cowboys quarterback for the Dolphins, Matt or the announcer from fucking Fox, or is it
Troy
ESPN?
Aikman.
Whatever. Yeah, Troy Aikman. I'm pretty sure Troy Aikman was advising the Dolphins. Um, I don't know why. I want to say there was another one, but I'm not remembering right now.
Well, John Elway did it first.
That's true. Yeah, John Elway, but he was a general manager. It's a little different. Like these are special advisors, and at least in Brady's case, he's a part owner. You
Yeah,
know, but like Matt Ryan, I don't think he's the president of operations, but he's
he
like,
is. He's the
oh, there you
president of
go,
football
dude.
operations, and then
Yeah, he's above
fucking
the GM.
Philip Rivers is just like, hey, I'm gonna put the shoulder pads on, and do this thing.
Philip Rivers
No,
almost got an interview with the Bills for the head coach position.
yeah, I know.
That would have been crazy to go from player to head coach in one. Dude, that
In
would have
what?
been insane. That would have been crazy. He'll probably be a coach someday. I wouldn't be shocked because he's a high school coach right now, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, but my
Um,
point with Brady is just that a lot of players will walk away from the game, but he didn't. He like immediately, wanted to keep his hand on football,
yeah,
which I
that
think
is a
has
great.
been for the benefit of the game.
Absolutely. No, I really. Ever since his Buccaneers tenure, I've really enjoyed Tom Brady, and obviously him being part of the Raiders, it's more interesting for me. But I've enjoyed everything that he's done. He's gotten better and better at Fox. Um, yeah, dude, and he does a lot. Like you're saying, he does a lot of stuff. Um, that's a
Tia's
great
dad's gonna
segue.
hate me for saying that though, but that's
Yeah,
it's just my opinion.
yeah. Former players doing things for football is a great segue into this next part of this topic about Klint Kubiak. Um, as I mentioned, there were 8 chairs at this press conference. Usually it's just three. Usually it's just Mark Davis, the general manager, and the head coach. So John Spytek and Klint Kubiak were surrounded by 6 Raider legends during this press conference. In order from left to right was Mike Haynes, Howie Long, Marcus Allen, Jim Plunkett, Charles Woodson, and Rich Gannon. So you have former MVPs, Super Bowl MVPs, Defensive Players of the Year, etc. Just Raider greatness, right?
Hmm.
Like that's the stage that Klint Kubiak was thrust upon in this press conference. And kind of a fucking, I mean, a bit of a flex, right? Like, pretty cool. I mean, they've been dog shit for so long. I like that, like, I mean, I'll get there. I'll get there. Um, Kubiak said that being right here. Kubiak said that being surrounded by those guys wasn't daunting when asked if it was a daunting thing to be surrounded by these guys, but rather a blessing. Uh, these guys represent what everybody in the Raiders building should aspire to be, right? Super Bowl champions, just great Raiders, right? But
Yeah.
ultimately, you're aiming to win it all. And most, if not all of these guys did. Mike Haynes, yeah, all of them. Howie Long, Marcus Allen, Jim Plunkett. Well, Rich Gannon didn't win the Super Bowl, but he was an MVP, right? Um, Many of the
I
current Raiders players were also in attendance for this press conference. There today to meet their head coach, but also likely to be training at the facility. What were you going to say?
I love that the video between Gruden and uh,
Oh, and
Rich
Gannon.
Gannon.
Yeah, and just in the streets of San Francisco, apparently they just were walking down the street and they bumped into each other
Yeah,
practically. Great
that's
video.
it's a
Great
classic
video.
video.
Yeah. They were just having a hell of a time just talking and reminiscing on their time with the Raiders. That was great. Something that was interesting to me, I think, in just the way that it was presented, sort of. The first person that spoke at this press conference was John Spytek, at least after the introductions and everything. And this was very clearly John Spytek's hire, ultimately. This wasn't Tom Brady's hire. This wasn't Mark Davis's hire. It definitely wasn't Mark Davis's hire. This was very much the football people were put in place here to be in charge, and they made their decision. And that was notably John Spytek choosing, ultimately, Klint Kubiak to be the head coach. Um, and that just fires me up. I'm not perfect. I'm not always fucking right, but finally, I'm given the head coach hire that I was calling for months in advance. I was hoping for Ben Johnson last year. Brady tried, but the 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 position just wasn't sexy enough to Ben Johnson in comparison to the Bears, right? The Raiders' job wasn't sexy enough probably to Mike Vrabel. I don't even think they interviewed him, but it wasn't sexy enough probably to Mike Vrabel last year compared to the Patriots, right? Um, Whereas this year it was, I shouldn't say sexy, but it was
It was a desirable destination.
a desirable destination. Thank you for Klint Kubiak, and I'll explain why in a second. Um, but first, as far as John Spytek's decision, it wasn't about the scheme; it was about the person. Ultimately, that's kind of where he went with this. But from my perspective, what a scheme to go with! What a coach to go with! What a guy to go with! The scheme is coming with the person that they hired. Like Spytek can say it was just about the person, the man, the coach, but the scheme that he's bringing, fuck yes. Okay. Kubiak will report to Spytek and Tom Brady per a report. I find that not only interesting but fucking amazing. I've been saying it needs to be the GM that is in charge of this organization as far as personnel and roster making decisions. Kubiak does make a great point in this press conference about um, communication, and I'll get there with this, but communication is going to be key with this regime. Not just Spytek, but how Spytek and Klint Kubiak work together. That is huge. That is immense for the success of this franchise moving forward. Um, Kubiak seems like an absolute pro. He's even keeled and he's a man of faith. Spytek mentioned rave reviews from those who have worked with Kubiak in the past. Kubiak saw the Raiders' facilities during joint practices when he was the pass game coordinator for the 49ers years ago. The Raiders' resources were a big sell for Kubiak. The practice facility, meal room, weight room, as well as the cap space and having, of course, the first overall pick. Those were all things that he mentioned as far as things that made the Raiders desirable for him, as well as their history. right? Mike McDonald, head coach of the Seahawks, in the way that he coached and worked with the rest of the Seahawks staff, was a big inspiration for Klint Kubiak. Um, Kubiak's father, of course, Gary Kubiak, was a head coach that won a Super Bowl with the Broncos 10 years ago. But Klint Kubiak mentioned that really his father was solely an inspiration in who he is as a person and less about football. Like he didn't make it all about football when they were growing up. It was like, I'm going to show you how to be a great person, how to be a great man, right? Um, and football just kind of came, I think, probably naturally with that, which is cool. Um, Communication, preparation, hard work, and effort were all huge emphasis from Kubiak in this press conference. It doesn't matter if you're rebuilding or a proven winner; those are the things that it takes to win. Um, it's all about the work. He's excited to work, right? He said a quote that struck me for many reasons. Um, he was asked about, like, being on this like an oil job before he even got a coaching job in college, and just what his mentality was like, and like in hindsight, like how crazy is it that now he's being a head coach and all that. And his point, or the quote that he said was, "Try to bloom where planted," and just that anywhere you are, whatever situation you're in, like ultimately you're going somewhere, you're on some path, even if it's a path that you don't realize yet. If you just keep working your best wherever you are, whatever situation you're in, you try to bloom where planted, like a flower or what have you. Like, it's a cool message. It struck me, right? Um, uh, I don't know what the question was, but Kubiak's response was essentially, you have to earn it. Like, that was another thing that was an emphasis in this press conference, was earning it, right? This regime needs to earn the fans' respect, getting those fans in the seats, right? You need to put that work in and succeed. You need to earn that respect. Like, if he was asked something like, what do you bring? Like, what would you tell Raider fans, to get them excited that you're here, or something like that? Like, he was just like, oh, I have to earn that. Like, I can't just tell them it's gonna work out. Like, we have to put our money where our mouth is. We have to put the work in and earn that respect and earn that trust, right? And honestly, I think that was the biggest difference. Many differences in watching this press conference, but that was probably the biggest difference that I felt between this press conference and Pete Carroll's a year ago, which I thought was phenomenal at the time. But I think Pete Carroll came in and said, I'm a champion. I know how to do this. He didn't literally say that, but that's how it kind of felt. Was like, we're going to turn this thing around. We're going to compete. It's going to be great. And that was the thing. He promised, we're going to hit the ground fucking running, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
this isn't a rebuild. We're going to hit the ground running, and that blew up in his face. Whereas Klint Kubiak doesn't promise, we're not going to start winning immediately, but for me to earn these fans' trust, for us to earn getting these fans to show up in those seats, we have to do it the right way. We have to earn that. And I really appreciate the fuck out of that. Because that's just blatant honesty and really being realistic, right? Kubiak does have a list. I'm sure it's not just Kubiak, it's probably Spytech and company as well, but they have a list of candidates the Raiders are soon to begin looking into relative to staff hires. Kirk Morrison asked a great question. He's an or Raider linebacker, noting the great defensive minds that Kubiak has been around in his career between Mike McDonald, Dennis Allen, and many more. Um, and what is he looking for in his defensive coordinator? Kubiak said the defensive coordinator will be somebody who will teach effort and technique. Establishing a physical style of play is integral not only to the defense but also the offense. And that's what it comes down to win in February. How hard do your guys play? Right? Like, he said something to the effect of, you have 17, 18, 19 weeks of football on film. To win in February, it's not about, is it the best scheme? Like, your scheme. It's how hard do your guys play for you, right? Love that message. I love that. Because I'm already convinced in his in his scheme. I feel good about it. I'm very curious who the defense coordinator will be, but if if the emphasis is going to be we have to play physical, we have to play hard, high effort, and you know, no mistake, limit mistakes. That's a winning formula in my book, especially if you have a good scheme to go with that. And then something that Kubiak said that was pretty funny was that he plans to call Tom Brady a lot, and that he said that it was Brady's mistake to give him his phone number. I thought that was pretty cool. And then lastly, Kubiak was asked about Maxx Crosby, and he said that Maxx Crosby was the first person in the building this very morning. He and he and Kubiak had coffee together and talked a bit. Crosby has said, over the past weeks or so, that people are kind of talking for him, and a lot of it is news to him, right? Meanwhile, today Kubiak is saying he wants Maxx Crosby to be a part of this process. So, you know, that's really all I have for Klint Kubiak. As far as Maxx Crosby goes, in like a very minor, quick topic, and then we can even go back to Kubiak if you want. Um, I just, I fail, I fail. I I just choose not to believe right now that it's clear cut Maxx Crosby is done as a Raider. I just fucking doubt that. He is currently not that I'm saying it's impossible. I'm not saying that there's no way that they don't trade him, or that there's no way that they do trade him. But he's rehabbing a meniscus surgery. Like, that's serious shit. And in hindsight, good on the Raiders for shutting him down. Because that gives him at least 2 extra weeks, or 3 or 4, whatever, how many weeks it was, of rehab. Getting ready for next season. But Crosby's word has never changed from himself that I've seen, as far as him being frustrated or anything like that, and demanding a trade. I've never heard him say that. Has he been frustrated? Fuck yeah, I would be frustrated too if I were a player on this team. But they did give him a new contract before last season, if I'm not mistaken, from Spytech. So I'd like to think that Spytech probably has a good relationship with Maxx Crosby. Klint Kubiak has already spoken to him, and even still in rehab, Maxx Crosby is the first person in the building every day wearing Raider gear. That does not sound like a guy that's demanding a trade right now. It's also key to note that this is day one. Actually, I would call it day zero of Klint Kubiak being head coach, because he's really not making any decisions today other than talking in a press conference. And also tomorrow, he's going to be back in Seattle for the fucking parade. So day one really is going to be Thursday for him. But it doesn't make any sense to me for
Is
Jay
he going to
Glazer
the
to come out and
parade?
say, yeah, they said that in the press conference. There's no reason to me that Jay Glazer would come out and say, yeah, Maxx Crosby's time is done as a Raider, if they don't even have the head coach yet at that time. Like, they're, again, the communication and, working as a staff together, that doesn't make sense to me. That, like, if Spytech is going out and saying, yeah, we're going to trade Maxx Crosby, that doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense to me. So,
Well, I
could it
thought the
happen? It absolutely could. But
all right.
right now,
Well,
it's ridiculous.
we'll talk about Maxx Crosby in a second. I do want to finish up on Klint Kubiak real quick. I feel like, all right, you said it was solely the decision of John Spytek. I feel like Tom Brady was definitely involved, because I feel like
No,
the moment when I thought Kubiak was going to be the guy, like his interview. All right, you know how they couldn't hire him while he was like in the middle of the playoffs. I felt like his live interview was when Tom Brady was announcing the Seahawks versus the 49ers, and Tom Brady got a front row, you know, like this was divisional round, a front row look at the Seahawks just eviscerating the 49ers on both sides of the ball.
Yeah.
And there was
Yeah, I
good
mean, I
play
think
calling.
I think they had a virtual interview like that week, and then Brady's calling the game that same very week. Like, yeah, it's I mean, it's nice for the Raiders to have that, you know.
And Brady was impressed by the play calls. Like
Absolutely.
he was audibly impressed.
Yeah.
Um,
But yes, you're right. There was a whole hiring committee, and Tom Brady was absolutely a part of that process. But I
mhm.
think the final decision came down to John Spytex. I believe that.
Real quick, Kenny 49ers tuning back into the channel. He says the 49ers are givers. Sam Darnold, Klint Kubiak, Trey Lance. Well, two out of the three ain't bad. Man, leave Trey
Yeah.
alone. Leave Trey alone. That was the 49ers' fault. Um, Kenny 49ers says, "Are we over the Fernando are we over Fernando Mendoza yet? You should trade the pick to Cleveland for their first and Shador. There you go. Raiders fixed."
Kenny, it's
Uh,
been 2 weeks. I almost forgot about this. That's
yeah,
hilarious.
th-
That's a good one.
that is a good one.
You know what
Uh,
though? Um, to your point though, Kenny, um, Lorenzo in our group chat did send a proposal, if you will, saying like Malik Willis could do numbers in this offense, and the Raiders could trade back in the first round because once Dante Moore went back to college, I think the Raiders got a lot of leverage with their first overall pick. Like there will be teams that will offer them trades this offseason, 100%. They will get offers. How strong? I'm very curious. And what the Raiders' price would be to move off of this, Fernando Mendoza possibility, I'm also very curious. Um, I still figure it's Mendoza or bust in their minds, but we saw the Bears, like to Lorenzo's point, we saw the Bears do this just a few years ago where they had the first pick, they trade back with the Panthers to like the ninth or 10th pick. They get like two future firsts. They got DJ Moore. And of course, the Panthers end up taking Bryce Young. And the Bears end out with the first pick the following year from the Panthers. Like most teams that pick a quarterback high in a draft aren't good. And they're not going to magically be good. So in theory, I'm not going to say, not even in theory, but I'm not completely against the Raiders trading back in this draft, getting a king's ransom, and deciding, you know what? We're going to do this the right way. We're going to build this roster, and probably next year we're going to get our quarterback. And in the meantime, we're going to sign a guy like Malik Willis, or I can't believe I'm saying this because this is a total fucking conspiracy theory. They could sign Derek Carr. Maybe they have to trade for him from the Saints, but Klint Kubiak coached Derek Carr on the Saints. And now there's talk about I know.
yeah.
uh Mike, stop it. Um but there was a report from Ian Rappaport saying, there is some talk of maybe Derek Carr is considering coming back or he could come back and his shoulder's better. I think I would prefer that under the circumstance that they draft Fernando Mendoza and then you have a good culmination of like guys that can give him some pointers on being a starter in the NFL, right? And Carr can be like kind of this really fun coming back to the Raiders story, but also like a bridge quarterback, the way that I really wanted him to be, you know? Rather than getting rid of him, like have him on the team and like gracefully hand the baton to the next franchise quarterback. That would be cool. At the end of the day, I am a fan of Derek Carr. Is it unrealistic? 100%. Um, but I can consider me intrigued, right? Um, but yeah, I mean, in this event that they trade back from the first pick, you can pick a high end offensive lineman, you can pick a high end corner, you can have a bunch of extra picks, and then you can get a little bit more, go a little bit for more luxury, like say a second round linebacker, like that kid Rodriguez. Go for Go for a receiver somewhere, or even first round receiver. Like they could do so many different things and surround the quarterback position with a lot of talent, hopefully in theory. And then next year you draft a guy in what's supposed to be a loaded class at quarterback, and then hopefully, a lot of hopefullys, you hit the ground running year two with Kubiak. But I guess my problem there is, do I expect a rookie quarterback to come in and just hit the ground running? No, I don't. So that's why I still prefer Mendoza, because I think it's going to take at least one season for him to kind of get really integrated in the NFL. And that first season can just be your trial and error season. See what works, see what doesn't. Get get Mendoza into the timing and rhythm of being an NFL quarterback, and figure out what works, figure out what doesn't, whether it's scheme wise or personnel wise, and then 2027 off season, that's when the Raiders really start hitting the ground running and filling out the roster and hopefully become, uh, I guess, perennial playoff team under Klint Kubiak. That's the hope.
I agree with Fosse here. He says the future of the Raiders starts and stops with Fernando Mendoza. If they pick him, your future starts with him. If they trade the pick, then there's no future, and you're set back 10 years. Mike, we have been waiting for 2 decades for the Raiders to just get the first overall pick so they can get a quarterback.
Yep.
Don't be stupid. Okay?
Yeah,
All right, I
I
get it.
I'm 99% all in on Fernando Mendoza. I see the reasoning for the trade back, get a haul, really build this roster because it needs a lot, right? It's not a quarterback away; it's a quarterback and a lot more away. But you also have $100 million in cap space. You have a lot more picks than just the first overall pick. Like, I mean, did anybody? There wasn't a single soul putting money on Seahawks Patriots this past offseason. Those are teams that got significantly better under really good coaches, namely the Patriots. Like, they went from one of the worst four teams in football last year to the Super Bowl. Admittedly, I think they got lucky
They did.
here and there.
They didn't
100%
belong.
they did with the
They
Bo
didn't
Nix
belong.
injury. Their fucking yeah, their schedule was trash. Like, they got lucky, but still, stranger things have happened, right? Do I think the Raiders are going to Super Bowl next year? Fuck no, I know they're not. I'd put money that they're not. But could they be right on the cusp of the playoffs when we were thinking like, yeah, maybe they'll get 6 wins, like maybe they get 9 wins and just miss the playoffs? Is that out of the question? No. Do I think it's going to happen? Fuck no. I think they're going to win 5 wins, and then after that year they get better with Fernando Mendoza.
Call me crazy. I think the Raiders. I don't think they will win the West, but I think they can contend for the West this year. Just the thought of Fernando Mendoza, Brock Bowers, Ashton Genty, and Klint Kubiak.
It all comes down, I'd say, really, it comes down to two things for me.
The defense.
It comes down to the offensive line and the defense. And then the third thing would be your rookie quarterback, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think Kubiak will help a lot with a rookie quarterback like Fernando Mendoza. But yeah, we don't know who the defensive coordinator is. I don't know how it's going with Crosby. There's uncertainty, quote unquote. But there are other positions they need to fill out. We have a lot of free agents on defense this year. There's still a lot of questions. I'll have a better idea after the draft. We got free agency in just over a month from now. So
You know what? I spoke too soon. I just remembered. All right, so I don't know when Mahomes is coming back, but I don't know, something about the Chiefs just kind of stinks lately. There's just something
right.
smelly about the Chiefs lately. And then I just remembered that the Chargers got Mike McDaniel, and I don't know
That's
why
gonna be a toughie.
I thought Bo Nix tore his ACL. He just broke his ankle. He'll be back. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting. But This is the first time in a while where I really feel like the Raiders are headed in the right direction. I thought Pete Carroll was the interesting hire because, of the head coaches in the AFC West, I was like, of the coaches in the AFC West, who are you going to hire to contend with Andy Reid, Sean Payton, Jim Harbaugh? And I felt like Pete Carroll definitely, was on par resume wise, football knowledge wise. He just couldn't connect with his players, anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Or at least he couldn't get his message across to this Raider team. But I don't know. I feel like you have to go with Mendoza, Mike. Like, just do it. Just do it. Don't.
Yeah, I mean that's still
Don't re-roll the
absolutely what I
dice.
would do. Yeah, I don't have any issues with Fernando Mendoza. In fact, I think he is quite the franchise player as a prospect. Yeah, and I will just say this right now. I said everything I have to say about Maxx Crosby. I don't think we even need to make it a fucking topic. We can talk about that another day. I'm ready to
Yeah.
get on out of here.
Yeah. Yeah, Maxx Crosby sucks. No, just kidding. Yeah, I mean, all right. We'll finish out the comments and then we'll wrap up the show. But all right, let's see where were we? All right, that was the last comment that we read. Kenny 49er says, "Did you guys hear that Shador made a joke about Tom Brady getting cheated on at the Raiders meeting? That's why Shador was blackballed." So first off, that's a rumor. That's not a report. Second off, I don't put any stock into it.
Yeah, that would be fucking insane.
Yeah.
That, like, I remember hearing, like, not rumors even, but, like, theories that maybe Shador, like, just tanked his draft stock on purpose. There are so many reasons why there's no fucking way. But, yeah, to do that, dude, he trained with Tom Brady. Why would he suddenly be like, oh, it'd be fucking the best thing I could do right now when I'm in the process of literally interviewing for an NFL job is to tell a part owner who I know quite well, wow, wasn't that funny when you got cheated on, dude?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It could have, I mean, maybe, but probably not in my mind.
You never know.
Yeah. If something actually substantial did come out from that later on, I will definitely be thinking about you, Kenny 49ers. And when Shador Sanders is a Hall of Famer.
Yeah. Hey.
He's already a Pro Bowler.
He's on pace to be like a 12-time Pro Bowler at least.
Yep. And he's also on pace to have more interceptions than touchdowns in his career.
Yeah.
Kenny 49er says, I heard Max is not leaving. Tell us who you heard that from. Is there somebody in there talking to you?
Let's get the source.
Yeah. I just love Fosse. Mike, stop it.
Yeah,
dude.
I think that's when I was talking about Derek Carr.
Yeah. That's hilarious. 49er Media says, hey, Josh and Mike, sick to my stomach that the Seahawks won. Yeah, that was 2 days ago. It's already next year. We're already on to next year.
How do you think I felt about this past Chiefs dynasty, which doesn't even feel like it's over until fucking Andy Reid and Mahomes retire?
Dude, that's the thing, man. That's the fucking thing. People are like, oh, the Seahawks got to play, the Patriots with blah blah blah. With an easy schedule, that shouldn't have been there, and the 49ers had to play the Chiefs dynasty. The only reason why the Chiefs are a dynasty is because the
fucking Raiders.
I fucking got tongue-tied there. because I was so into that. The fucking 49ers, they blew it twice. They blew it twice.
Yeah, man.
That's the only reason why the Chiefs are a dynasty.
Yeah. Yeah. Unfortunately.
You lose two
Unfortunately for
Super
everybody
Bowls to the
involved.
same team, they'll be a dynasty. Kenny 49ers says, I like the Carr brothers, never liked them as quarterbacks. Already got to
Podcast
Fosse's
seems
comment.
pretty good.
Taylon Green is a quarterback. Oh, all right, Mike. That's one thing that I wanted to say too about the whole notion of like, oh, Malik Willis, blah blah blah. If you go from potential franchise quarterback to Malik Willis and some fucking picks, I'd be pissed as I would stop watching Raider
Yeah,
football. I'd be like,
the
this is enough. I'd be
it's
like,
so
this.
risky, and it feels like such a broke franchise thing to do. You know,
That's
like
like,
unless they had really great intel, like okay, we're gonna get this offensive lineman early in the draft, and like we feel good about this draft. We're gonna fill out the rest of the roster. Like, yeah, but I don't think anybody has that good of intel that like Malik Willis is bona fide like a starter. Like, I'm sorry, just yeah, I agree with you. Just draft Mendoza and keep it fucking moving.
yeah, because
Build it the right way. Get a franchise quarterback.
What if Mendoza is generational? Like,
Right.
say what you want about the way the Seahawks built their team, but they went from a quarterback that was drafted in the second round, traded him for a third round pick, and then got a quarterback that was drafted in, the top 5 of his respective draft
Mm,
for what, cheaper than Geno Smith's contract is right now? Like,
right.
I'm sorry, the Seahawks did 4D chess. They upgraded at quarterback and came up on a pick. Um,
Not
you
to be
know
this
what?
guy. It's
If the
10-14.
Raiders didn't trade, yeah, I know. If the Raiders didn't trade for Geno Smith, would
Uh-huh.
they have signed Sam Darnold?
Well, I think that was a scheme thing, and I think Darnold just wanted to be with Klint Kubiak, to be honest with you, because it's practically the same scheme as Kevin O'Connell. Um, so if I were in charge of the Raiders, I would have, because I loved what Darnold put on film for the Vikings the year prior. Um, but with Chip Kelly, I'm not so sure because it was Chip Kelly at the time. I don't know if that's who Darnold would have, you know, wanted to go to, or vice versa if Chip Kelly would have wanted him.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a possibility, yeah. I would have much rather not given up a third round pick and just got Darnold. It would have been a win win. But chances are, everybody would be saying, now there's the Sam Darnold we all thought we knew. This,
True.
like right now, you know? Instead, he's a Super Bowl champion, so good for him. Dude got drafted by the Jets. He made it out.
Yeah.
He made it out the mud.
Okay. I'm gonna rapid fire these comments and then we'll get out of here. All right, I got to that one. As a Cuban American, I'll say this: Cubans are too nice. That's all I'll say. That's what scares me about Mendoza. I think he can throw a pretty good football. For a Cuban. So, um, I want a quarterback like Cam Newton. He would push you in front. He would push you in front of a bus for a Super Bowl. You got to respect that. Well, he might push you in front of a bus, but he won't dive on a football. But funny enough, Cam Newton did finally talk about that, and he said he was scared. And I thought like that was the realest thing that he could have ever said. Frank tuning back in as always. He says Super Bowl hangover is worse than tequila. 100%. But I'll always take tequila over Super Bowl hangover.
Yeah.
Taylor Green is a quarterback that will be there later, taller than Fernando, faster too. Dual threat quarterback needs to be better under pressure, but if you protect him, he'll be fine, and it won't cost first rounder. I'll look into Taylor Green, but I don't know who he is, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think a big sell for me with Mendoza is simply his personality. I think he's just a winner.
Fossey says Crosby is going to be a Lion. I think he's going to be a Ram, personally, if
I
not
can
a
see the
Raider.
Lions. I can see the Lions.
Yeah,
Him and
Crosby.
Hutchinson, that would just be disgustingly. They'd have the most pressures combined in the league for sure. Anyways, but
I'm
I
pretty
doubt.
sure
I, I just. I
if he's not a Raider, he's a Ram. I'm confident.
if they can afford him. I saw a tweet about if the Raiders trade Crosby, like other than like $4 million this year, like all the money goes on to the team that takes him on. So it's got to be some team with a lot of cap space because it's going to be north of $28 million a year, some shit.
Mm-hmm. And honestly, Shador is a very nice kid, so I don't believe it. Yeah, I don't believe it either. He acted respectfully and kind to everyone. Max said it multiple times, I thought. Blame pile shit in hands. I haven't forgotten about that one. I just forgot who said it, but Frank, duly noted. What you talking about, Malik? Cam. All right, that's the show, everyone. Mike, do you have anything else that you want to get off your chest before we get out of here today?
No, I'm just excited about Klint Kubiak, and we can start getting ready for free agency pretty soon here.
Mm-hmm. I don't know when the next time that we will go live will be. I would say to everybody, stay tuned for that. It probably won't be next week. I think we've been doing a really good job staying consistent, honestly, we've
every
our
other
shows.
week. I mean, now that it's the off season, every other week is probably perfectly good.
Yeah, every other week, or just when there's things to talk about, because we want to give you guys a good show. We don't want to just go live for like, hey everybody, how's it going? We want to be able to have a good conversations. That way, you guys can feel the urge to add on to the conversation, and we build off from there. Kenny 49ers, I want to give you a shout out for being one of the top commenters in the past several streams. Yeah, thank you for muting that. I didn't want to hear myself, Mike. But for some reason, everybody in the comments wants to hear me. Everybody watching live, they like my voice or something. But I want to give a shout out
in literally 30 seconds.
All right. I want to give it a shout out. Kenny 49ers, Frank Weber, Fosse, 49er Media, Ash, Luis, Mr. Hardy, Will Buckets, Anthony C., and everybody else who tuned in. We'll catch you guys in the next one. Stay tuned for when that is. Peace out. Have a great night, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Peace.
Thank you. Thank you. Frank Weber says, thanks, guys. Glad I caught your show. We're glad that you caught the show. I saw your comment, by the way. And shout out to Pia. Mike, I'm going to let it ride a couple seconds.
Buzzer.